Welcome to the Series 12 panel discussion, where today we will be discussing Spyfall Part 1. And today I have on the panel Lily.
Hello.
Connor, or Genesis of Androzani, if you will.
Hello.
And the magnificent return of Shay.
Hello.
Eagerly anticipated by all viewers of this channel. I mean, I do genuinely remember when I brought you back for Series 11, somebody put in the comments, "Yay, Shay's back."
That was just my alt account.
Alright, so we're going to move swiftly on into talking about the Doctor and the Companions. So, Lily, you haven't been on a panel discussion before, so I'll just quickly explain how it works. I'll choose one of you to start off the discussion. We kind of let them say their piece, and then we kind of go for a more free-flowing discussion and go through all of these categories until we get to the end, give our final thoughts, give a rating out of 10. So the first thing we're talking about is the Doctor and the Companions. So would you like to start talking about it, Connor?
Oh, I thought you said you wanted to start with Lily.
No, I was just explaining to Lily how it works.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, the pressure's on me. The Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, well, she's kind of more of the same, I think. She felt very similar to how she was in Series 11. You know, the whole quirky Doctor thing she has going on, which I personally do find quite irritating, but if someone else finds that endearing, then fine, whatever. She was fixing her TARDIS like a car. I suppose people liked that. And she, said some stuff like fucking there was so many weird jokes in this episode, kisses and that French in it, stuff like that. And there was also the whole her pretending to be James Bond. I don't know. She's a good actress, I suppose, but I really just don't care for her Doctor at all. I would say probably one of the negative points I had with this episode was just her, because I just in general don't find her that interesting. In terms of the companions, Graham did get quite a lot of weird comedy in this, like the whole thing of he said something like best Uber ever, and I just cringed at that. Then there was Ryan, who, God, I'm struggling. I watched this earlier today. I'm struggling to remember. I can't. Oh yeah, Ryan was involved. Ryan and Yaz were involved in that whole plot with the Lenny Henry's character, and he was sort of just doing stuff. And then I think the one that got the most involvement was Yaz. She actually got something to do, which is a surprise. She was a sort of got into real danger, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That was novel.
And then she got a bit of... See, I'm just saying what happens in the plot, because I don't really feel anything about it. But she got involved in the plot, and she got emotional about nearly dying, and then, that's about it. What else can I say?
Well,
there was some bad comedy. There was some well-shot scenes that were made by a professional studio, and there were characters that said words, and I watched it, and then it was over.
Right, well, that is a brilliant description of Doctor Who. I think we'll just finish it there, shall we? There's nothing else to say.
Cool.
No, but, so going back to what you said about Jodie Whittaker, I completely agree. They still have yet to add any substance to this Doctor. Her only so-called trait is being quirky, which isn't enough to make a character. It's not enough to make a distinct Doctor. I don't feel anything coming from this Doctor. And, Jodie Whittaker, she's a decent actress, but she's struggling because there's not much material to really get her teeth into. So her Doctor just feels paper thin and not very interesting. I felt that, even though I do have a lot of positive things to say about this episode, the companions I felt were a little bit downgraded from how they were last series. Because one of the positive points I felt is, aside from Yaz, Graham and Ryan were actually handled quite well. Whereas I felt they didn't really feel as well-rounded as they did in that series. And Graham just being used for light comic relief with the Paul, which wasn't very good. And the main problem I have, I'll let somebody else speak in a minute, is just how awful some of the dialogue was in this episode. Chris Chibnall seems to really struggle with writing really good dialogue. And I think the scene that really typifies this is when Yaz and Ryan are outside Vor, which is a funny name. They're outside the Vor building, and the delivery just sounds wrong. But I don't think it's their fault. I think it's just the script has these lines which doesn't really sound like it's coming out of a human. So I can imagine it is difficult to properly do. And yeah, I'm not a fan of Chris Chibnall's dialogue, although I do have positives to say about this episode, but we'll get onto them later. But,
Right.
Yeah.
I will say there was one part I did think was at least a little bit funny, and that was the fact that Yaz's sister wanted Brian's number, and then Brian wanted Yaz's sister number. I did actually think that was a little bit cheeky, but apart from that, there wasn't much I really laughed at.
Yeah, I don't like Chris Chibnall's humour.
We're going to have a conversation.
Don't remind me of that joke. So, Lily, what did you think of the Doctor and the companions in this episode?
Well, sorry. I'm completely in agreement with what you say about Jodie. I think she needs something else, another layer, shall we say, that sort of needs to actually define her character a bit more.
Yeah, she just needs an episode where she really faces up to something proper and really gets some defining scenes in that episode.
Like, we don't know her Doctor still. Like, we don't... Well, I can't think of a way to describe it. We just don't... We haven't sort of discovered anything interesting. We don't really know her, other than she's sort of hyper and asks too many questions all at once, and I'm like, calm down and stop saying fam. Stop saying fam.
I completely agree there.
Flaming fam. Not going to swear. Flaming fam.
Do you
Stop.
think part of the problem is that most Doctors really have some defining moments in their first series? Like, they face a lot of challenges, like really serious challenges, whereas Jodie didn't really have any of that. It felt a bit too easy in Series 11.
I like Jodie, I do, and I think she's got potential there, but it's not being used, in my opinion, in that respect, I think. Otherwise, though, Yaz got a bit more to do.
That's
I
true.
agree with that as well, which is we saw a little bit more of her character as well, sort of. I think. To an extent.
She was the only person to improve in this episode. Yaz, definitely.
Well, I mean, she went from nothing to something. I suppose that's an improvement.
Yeah, it is. Come on, we've got to scrape the morsels of credit when it's due.
Graham, I love Graham anyway. Graham's my babe. I love him. He's brilliant. But I agree that he didn't really shine as much in this.
Shay, you've been quiet. What do you think of the Doctor and companions in this story?
Well, I think a lot of very interesting points have been made. I think I'm coming at this from a slightly different perspective. I am no longer the hardcore fan I once was of the series, so I'm not exactly... I'm not as invested in the show anymore, or in the journey of like the Doctor and all this stuff. So like, to me, I enjoyed watching Jodie, but I get what you mean about there not being a lot of substance there. But from my perspective, as like a more casual viewer, I found her to be like a charming like protagonist that leads you through this journey, despite the fact that she is working with a script that does have a lot of poor dialogue. I felt she was a really good guiding force for the story, as were the rest of the companions. Graham, I love from the few episodes I watched last series. He's probably like one of my favorite companions ever. Just what a man. Ryan and Yaz, I don't know, like, I like Ryan, but I feel like I don't know much about him, but also that is, of course, because I haven't watched all of Series 11. Yaz, as I've heard many a time, was nothing until just now. And I liked what she had to do in this episode. I liked most of what she did. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. So I pretty much liked all of them, but I understand where you guys are coming from as people more invested in the story and the show as a whole.
Yeah, all right. So for the purposes of time, we're going to move on to the next category now and discuss the plot. So would you like to start on that, Lily?
We need to discuss the plot.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in general, how the episode moved along and what it involved.
Well, spies. Woo. I mean, what else? What did it involve otherwise? I mean, Stephen Fry. Woohoo! Love a bit of Stephen. What else to say? I mean,
The Doctor is a man.
yeah. That's the thing is, I had this discussion with my brother last night, and I get what it was trying to do, but it didn't do it very well, in my opinion. Like, it didn't. I get it. I understand they were trying to say, "Oh, they're all an old bunch of dinosaurs" or whatever. I get it, but like, just nah. Anyway, that's a different matter entirely, really. What else happened in it? I mean, am I allowed to say the Master came back?
We're going to discuss the Master in the next category.
But
you can talk about the twist.
He come back. That's part of the plot.
Yeah.
What else happened? The weird monster things. The balls of light. Well, I'm going to stop doing that now because that looks embarrassing. I'm intrigued by those, actually. There's a lot of interesting ideas about what they might be.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup, isn't there? There's a lot of setup in this.
That's what I really liked about this episode. This is the part where I'm going to be really positive. Is I enjoyed the intrigue, the mystery, and the energy and the flow this episode has. It was something completely absent from Series 11. And this feels like a proper story. We're getting a lot of setup, and hopefully we're going to get good payoff. We'll see. That'll make or break the episode. But the fact that we're actually getting some energies, a good setup, a mystery, some quite intimidating monsters. I mean, I don't know about you, but I found them a little bit scary. And I just felt it worked really well. The flow of it worked really well. It was well paced. It really benefited from being a two-part.
I'm glad it's a two-parter.
What did you think then, Conor? I sense you're not as positive as I am.
Well, I mean, structurally, yeah, but I don't know. I've got this general issue with Chibnall's production style, where it's all so deadpan. I just find it really hard to have fun whilst watching his stories. And like, whilst like I look at, if someone showed me the script of this episode on paper, I could look at it and be like, yeah, he's got this right, he's got this right, he's got this right. But then I actually watch the episode itself, and I kind of, despite the fact it's got all these elements in it, I just don't really care. And I think it's just because of how the production style feels. It's so, like I said, deadpan. And also, that's another thing that I have a problem with Jodie's Doctor, is the fact that her Doctor feels so incongruous to the style of the show at the moment. It's really odd how she's so bubbly and upbeat, yet the show's, the way it's shot, the way it's directed, the way it feels is so opposite to her. And I don't know, it just feels wrong for me. Maybe that's just like...
No, I completely see what you're saying there, actually.
Yeah.
That's something that I... Throughout Series 11 and this episode, that I haven't quite been able to put my finger on, because there was something that was irking me about it, and I think you may have got your finger on the button there. I mean, I still enjoyed the way this episode flowed. I still thought it was a really good setup. We'll see what happens in the payoff, because that will make or break it. But yeah, I can completely see what you mean there, because it is shot as if it's really down and dark.
See the way these episodes are shot. The way these episodes are shot, I feel like would suit like Peter Capaldi's style more than Jodie's, if that makes sense. Like a much more sort of serious Doctor, whereas I feel like she would suit the previous style more. I think possibly.
Well, like RTD style, you mean?
Or maybe just even like early Moffat, like the more sort of magical feel, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Whereas she just feels so out of place here. And I don't know, it's hard for me to connect the story together because it's so oddly, like it's all sort of, it all feels out of place. Like you're right, there is a lot of setup in this episode that could have some interesting payoffs later on, but I just find as I'm watching it really hard to care about it because I just don't feel any affection for the show. That makes sense?
I felt it was an exciting ride. Like, I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed how it moved along. But I completely get what you mean. That is definitely a problem with the whole of the Chibnall era. Because that is a really good point. It's something I haven't... It's, as I said, it's been something that's been irking me at the back of my mind, but I haven't been able to put my finger on it. But I think you really got something there. Shay, do you have anything to say on the plot before we move on?
I had a really good time watching the episode. It's like exactly the kind of thing I want from Doctor Who as someone who has Paradise Towers in their top 5. It's something that does not take itself it's not that it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's so like bombastic and over the top and just like going with it. It knows what it is, and it moves at such a quick pace that the energy in it just made it a lot easier for me to ignore things I had issues with.
I mean, it's certainly chaotic. I'll give it that.
Yeah. I mean, I get why a lot of people wouldn't like that, but that if there's anything I want from this show, it's that kind of thing.
I
Just
wouldn't
nonsense.
I wouldn't say it's in the same category as Paradise Towers, though. That's a bit different.
Yeah, it's
I don't
definitely
know, when I
better
was
than Paradise
watching it-
Towers.
When I was watching it, I was like, "This is very Paradise Towers."
Okay.
I'd say it was like if season 24 did a Pertwee story, but with a better budget.
Series 12 plus
No, series
12
24
equals series 24,
Oh, shit.
season 24.
Oh shit!
He's got us, lads. He's got
Fuck.
us.
Well, so you're saying it's
Costs
like
are
season?
outside.
It's like season 24, but made by like professionals, you know? Like, that's what it's.
I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to insinuate about John Nathan Turner.
I'm not
but-
saying no, don't worry. Oh, now you're making me sound like I'm treading a dead man's grave. That's not good.
I can't believe you hate dead people. What a terrible. You
Got an
heard it here
anti-
first, folks.
I've got an anti-corpse agenda.
Send
Go
all
on,
your hate.
Cancel
Right.
Genesis of Androzani.
Report this video. Dislike. Unsubscribe.
No, not this channel. It was him. Go, I've got his link in the description. You can go do it. His
You're-
video.
Wow.
You are hosting this hatred, Dylan. This is on your hands.
Oh shit. Alright, so we're gonna move on to the Master now, and because he made a very surprise return in this story, and I have to say I did not see that twist coming, and was probably one of the best bits of the episode just in terms of the reveals. Like, holy shit, this is what it would have felt like if it didn't spoil John Sim's return in series 10. Actually, a surprise. You know, it's amazing what it's like to feel a surprise when watching Doctor Who. I haven't felt that in a long time, but. Anyway, do you want to talk about the brief scenes we got the Master first, Shay?
Well, before I saw the episode, I made the mistake of going on Twitter, and I saw someone mention a twist, but they didn't mention what the twist was. And then the Doctor Who famously only has 3 twists. It's either the Master, it's the Daleks, or it's the Doctor. So I figured it's one of those 3. But I thought it was done really well. I feel like if I didn't know there was a twist, I probably wouldn't have guessed it. And the actor, I can't remember his name because I didn't read the.
Something like that.
Asher Dewar.
Yeah, that's right.
Warren
Well,
Hussein.
I thought he was great as both O. I thought he was a really good character. I thought he played that really well. And then in like the last brief few minutes, we had him as the Master. I thought he was great. He it wasn't very Delgado or Ainley, and it was kind of close to Sim, and I don't get why I liked it because I dislike
Yeah,
him.
that's odd, isn't it?
But it was just something about him. He's just like so effortlessly charming in the role, but also like so evil, like so maliciously, cartoonishly evil, just for the sake of it. It almost feels like he's just doing it to fuck with the Doctor. Like at the end, he's like, "Oh, I got you," just like it's a fucking prank or something. I don't know. I just really liked the way it was done. I liked the way it was handled.
Yeah, so I really liked the twist, and I liked his performance as O, and I kind of liked that I was made suspicious of O really early on. I've forgotten exactly what the line was, but there was something that made me suspicious. But then I kind of forgot my suspicions, and I think the performance that he gave really helped aid that. So it was a reveal that didn't necessarily come out of nowhere, but it was a surprise as well as having some build up to it, which is good writing, good acting. However, what I am going to say is, while I'm not going to fully judge him based on a minute scene, I'm not convinced by his Master yet. I felt he didn't quite have the presence I expect from the Master. I'm going to give him another episode. I'm going to, because that was only a minute screen time. Maybe that's completely wrong. But for me, he didn't have the presence I expect from the Master. I didn't quite feel the Master was there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because, I would say I actually kind of agree on that point, Dylan, because, thinking about episodes like Utopia and Dark Water, I actually did kind of feel a presence, even though, I would admit, Missy and Dark Water was very different. There was something, in terms of, there was something there leading up to the reveal. And with this episode, I do agree that the twist certainly was unpredictable. I absolutely didn't see it coming. But at the same time, when the initial shock wore off, and I sort of realized what was going on, I sort of realized that this would have been so much better had I actually cared about the episode before that. I think that might be a big problem with this episode for me, is that I think that because I wasn't into it through the ride. When it got to the twist of the Master, I kind of didn't get as into it as I should have been. But I will obviously give it a chance in part 2. I'm really interested to see where it goes in part 2. But I do think there is a sort of bittersweetness to it for me because I don't know. It was certainly interesting, but I just there's something about the way Chibnall makes Doctor Who where it's like I'm observing events that are all well written, but I just don't really care about it. It's so irritating for me, you know.
I think,
and I was like, I really wanted to get invested in it, you know.
His Doctor Who would improve a lot with better dialogue. Because if you notice that a pattern between the best Doctor Who episodes, it's by writers who really have a talent for dialogue.
Yeah. And again, like I said with Jodie's Doctor, like the style of this show and this Master that we got at the very end, again, I feel incongruous. It's so odd. Like I wish there was more like just color and camp to the show. Then I feel like this Doctor and this Master might feel like they fit in more. But I suppose we'll have to wait till next week to see how it fully plays out. But I will say that I was definitely surprised by the twist. I just wish I cared more, you know?
You've definitely got a point with how mismatched a lot of the kind of way things are cast and shot are in the Chibnall era. That is definitely a good point. And it's something I haven't thought of before, so that's really interesting. Do you want to give your thoughts quickly on the Master, Lily, before we move on?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, like, has anyone seen, is it Spyfall or Spectre, the one with that silver guy in it? I don't want him to go down that bloody route of being a childish, stupid villain, because that annoys me. Just saying.
So you don't want to be like John Sim, then?
To be honest, I've seen John Sim's Master like once, so I'm not going to say that because I've not really seen him. But taking that sort of, like, mind you, they made Blofeld the same as well, like that kind of childish villain. It's like being poked in the playground, and I just don't. I prefer a more sophisticated villain, but maybe that's. I feel like the Master is kind of like he can be both, but he's not necessarily childish. I think he's sophisticated. I think he likes to play, I suppose, but I don't think he's that sort of. I don't think he's childish. I don't think he's like.
He plays behind like a downplayed veneer, very sophisticated veneer.
Yeah.
Maybe Lenny Henry was cast as the wrong person. They should have had him as the Master. He would have made it.
As you say, I mean, you know, we've seen him for like a few minutes, so.
Yeah, I mean, he could be great in the next episode, so I'm not going to commit myself to any opinion.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they take his character, but no, it was nice to see the Master. I mean, some moron decided they were going to tell me about it, and I'm like, go away, why did you do this? But anyway, point being, other than that, I didn't know about anything else, so it's fine.
Alright, so we're going to move on to talking about the monsters quickly. I mean, I know there's not a whole lot to say, but I just wanted to highlight this particular category because I get what you're saying about how you weren't particularly invested in the episode, Connor. But for me, when watching it, kind of the mystery and intrigue around the monsters and all these different elements that are being brought in is what kept me engaged. Because I don't know, there's something, they were quite scary. And
they were certainly abstract.
Not much is given away about them. They've done a lot of weird things. There's lots to unravel. And because it's a two-part, it actually has time to do that in a satisfactory way. And these monsters, they're what's keeping me very engaged in the story and what has made me excited to see what happens in the next episode.
Well, they certainly are abstract. I'll give them that. And actually, when I was watching them, I got vibes of other monsters we'd seen, like in terms of the way they were traveling through the walls. So actually, no, there's sort of three things I have to say. So firstly is the way they looked was like the bright white light. It reminded me of things we'd seen in like late 70s, early 80s Doctor Who. There's a couple of villains in those eras that are a bit like weird and abstract like that. It was almost like if Warrior's Gate was a monster, you know? Then in terms of the way they were passing through the walls, it kind of reminded me a bit of Flatline. And then when you got them actually talking, it kind of reminded me of the Satan Pit a little bit. So there's some elements there that are interesting, and it was certainly abstract, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll see what happens in the next episode, because they might end up being completely shit, or they might end up being brilliant. It all depends on how the reveal goes, on what they actually are and what they're doing. Because it's all about the payoff with Spyfall Part 1. It's all about, this episode will either be retroactively better or retroactively worse, depending on how good the payoff is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was like Lenny Henry was being told around by these monsters who are then being controlled by the Master, and it's a bit like, oh, okay, this needs a bit of explaining, doesn't it?
Yeah, but fortunately, we've got 50 more minutes to explain it. Rather than
Yes,
just like
and
about
I think,
10 minutes at the end of the episode where Jodie waves around a sonic screwdriver and everything fixes itself.
I think this definitely feeds into your point you made, Dylan, about episode length in one of your videos, so I hope you're happy about
one of my videos. Like most of my videos.
Yeah, I'm glad that the only Chibnall stories we're getting this series are the two-parters. Like the fact that we don't get a single part Chibnall, so we're not going to get like another Saranga conundrum
or another Arachnids in the UK.
Oh god, we got to watch that on the weekend.
Oh yeah, we are. Christ.
If you kill spiders, you are a morally evil person.
Right. Do you have anything?
But if you let them suffocate, you're a morally right person.
Well, that's fine because then you're not doing anything.
So, Lily, do you have any thoughts on the monsters?
The monsters? Yeah. They're interesting, certainly, and I was going to say something, but I've forgotten. Oh, yeah. What you said about, what's it called? The Satan Pit. It either reminded me of that, I agree, or the creatures in The Unquiet Dead. What are they called?
Oh, the Gelth. The Gelth.
Maybe that's just me. But anyway, yeah, that was what I was going to say. But I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. What was it they said to the Doctor anyway? Because I can't remember.
They were saying about how they're appearing in a humanoid form to mock us because they come from another universe and they find the way we appear funny. Which I thought was a decent line. It was actually a decent bit of dialogue from Chibnall. One of the only bits that I found quite intimidating.
Well, it's better than
they look like they look like the special edition, DVD version of the tinfoil fuckers from the Invasion.
Yes.
So that's what I'm expecting the reveal in part 2 to be. It's the
Vardan reveal in the Invasion of Time. That was bad enough.
Well, I want a version of this episode where they're tinfoil.
Yeah, want the un-CGI version, like the
special.
God, I've
Tom
reviewed
Baker
that episode.
Level effects.
I've reviewed that story on my channel. All
right, so we're gonna move on to looking at the side characters quickly. There's not a massive amount to say, but I feel there's enough to talk about. So, do you want to start, Connor?
Oh, who? Which side characters?
Any of them, like what's his face?
Stephen. Okay, Stephen Fry said some exposition and then he died. And Unit and Torchwood are gone, so we won't be getting Captain Jack again, sadly.
All I can say is that this means that last year Unit were axed for the sake of a Brexit joke.
Yes.
That did actually happen.
And why was Torchwood axed?
I know, Brexit joke too.
I don't know. Anyway, Stephen Fry died, and then Lenny Henry was kind of like. I've seen comments on Twitter saying he was kind of similar to Tobias Vaughn a little bit, but I don't know. Like, I suppose maybe functionally in the plot, maybe, but I just I don't know. I didn't really. I suppose it was. I suppose it was kind of interesting. It's a little bit interesting. He was 93% human. It's a nice little moment, but there was also that little bit with the security cameras thing. I thought that was a bit strange. What else is there? There was the casino scene where they did a bunch of gambling and cards, and Jodie's like, snap! And I'm like, oh, God. Ugh. What other side characters are there? I can't even remember.
That was really it, other than
I think it's just those two.
Yeah, I mean, there was the chase as well, which I kind of found a bit disappointing, honestly. When Chibnall said this was going to be like the biggest scale episode ever, I was like, are you really? Like, fucking half of Pertwee's era is bigger than this.
Well, the chase from Planet of the Spiders was better, in my opinion. I mean, I still like this chase, but...
Where was the Whomobile, is my question.
Yeah, exactly. We need the Whomobile.
I just love how he just randomly has a flying car. That's fucking great.
Well, he did have it before in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, so it's not like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
it came out of nowhere in that one as well. He just has it all of a sudden.
No, it wasn't a Deus Ex Pertwee, but But yeah, I don't know. He kind of lied to us. But maybe in the next episode we'll have more of it. I don't know.
I feel that Lenny Henry should have had a bit more screen time. So I don't feel I really have gotten to know that character at all. And I feel that with such a quality actor, you have the potential to make a really great villain. Like along the
also,
lines
you know what's really weird? You know what was really weird? During those action scenes, it sounded like Sagan Akinola was trying to be Murray Gold, and the way I would describe it is it sounded like a fucking killer whale in the Sydney Opera House. You know, I was like, why are you trying to do something you're not? You know, it was like this weird bassy Akinola sound trying to be like high pitched. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. But apart from that, I did like the music.
I'll tell you one thing that didn't work for me with Lenny Henry. I mean, it wasn't Lenny Henry's fault. It's just, again, this goes back to how mismatched things are. That scene where Jodie confronts him, it just didn't feel right. They both felt like they were acting in completely different stories.
Yeah.
She's been like all bubbly and stuff, and then he's trying to be like a very sinister villain. It just it didn't gel at all.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and she's like, oh yeah. It's like, fucking hell, what's going on here?
Yeah, that didn't quite work.
And again, it's like the whole split of like half the crew is deadpan and half the crew is fucking, I don't know, Matt Smith light.
All right,
I just can't believe Lenny Henry regenerated into a pipe bomb at the end of the episode. That was a bold move. Bold creative decision.
Oh, I will say though, I do kind of like the I do like the look of the prison thing that the Yaz and the Doctor went into. Like, you know, that weird like prison that looks like it's underwater. It's got like weird. I will say one thing about this episode. Like, to its credit, it is very abstract at points, and I think that's much more than what Chibnall's done before, so that's something, at least. I don't know, but...
There were parts with I just remembered this now, so I'll be quick. There were parts with the monsters, with, like, the light creatures, when they were, like, swarming over those Secret Service agents, where it was kind of like borderline... I don't know if anyone's seen Twin Peaks: The Return, but it was like borderline like art house in a way, in just like the way it was edited. Like, it was so like abstract and like confusing to the point where it just felt like totally different from everything else in the episode.
The way they were all leaning around the body, and you could say it was kind of like Vor.
You know what, Dylan? I'm gonna leave right now. Vor is more powerful than any government in the world. Damn fucking right it is.
Alright, we're going to move on to final thoughts now. So just give a brief summary of what you thought of the episode and a rating out of 10. Do you want to start, Lily?
Out of 10?
Yeah, well, we'll give you brief thoughts, yeah.
Personally, I give it about 7 or 8. Why? Well, it's exciting. Very exciting, and I'm not going to dance because that's embarrassing.
Well, nobody will see you anyway. It's audio recorded.
I'm still going to stop.
You've been dancing the whole time, for all anybody knows. We could have all been dancing.
Yeah,
I was.
The Doctor dances.
I liked the spy theme. I liked Stephen Fry. I love Stephen Fry. But he didn't.
But he died.
Yeah, I know he did. Why? Why would you do these things? Hello, cat.
That was a bit of a visceral gut punch. That was. It's just the fact it's Stephen Fry that's getting shot.
I'm extremely intrigued to see what will happen in part 2, whatever that may be. Hopefully, it lives up to its expectations.
All right, Connor, do you want to give your final thoughts then?
Bad dialogue, cringe humor, deadpan production, abstract ideas, but again, deadpan production, disjointed cast, flat Doctor. Okay writing, big twists, but I didn't care. 6.5.
That's pretty generous given the fact that all of your final thoughts were negative, bar 1.
Well, it's extremely competent, but I don't care. And I would have given it a 6.
That sounds like Chibnall.
I would have given it a 6, but because of the twist at the end, I'll give it a 6.5.
Alright, Shay, do you want to give your final thoughts then?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was like so stupid. It was so dumb, this whole thing. But it worked for me personally because it was like exactly what I wanted, just like an hour where I could just relax and watch a bunch of dumb shit happen. And then also there were bits that were just like really cool and interesting, and there was a lot of really nice direction going on and blocking and everything. An 8 out of 10, I suppose.
All right, well, for me, there's a lot I liked about it. I really liked the way the plot moved along. I really liked the intrigue and mystery that was built up. It felt like it had a lot of energy, which was so lacking from the vast majority of Series 11. So it was a relief to finally have, some threatening villains, something interesting, something to really get my teeth into. The reveal was brilliant. We didn't have anything close to that in Series 11. It was actually something interesting that we go, wow! Like in Series 11, was there any point where you went, wow? Probably not. It wasn't perfect.
Yeah, because I remember when Grace died, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so as Connor says, there's a few issues with like the cast and some of the themes being a bit mismatched, and the dialogue is pretty horrendous. But I feel that the plot kept me engaged enough to where I still thoroughly enjoyed it, as long as I'd switch my brain off a little bit. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the payoff is in part 2, which will make or break this episode. So this episode will either be retroactively better or retroactively worse, depending on how good the payoff is. But as for now, 7 out of 10, I did enjoy it. It was a good series opener so far. Alright, well, I'd like to thank you all for coming on, Lily, Connor, and Shay. Connor has a YouTube channel called Genesis of Androzani, which I will link in the description. Go watch it, and specifically go watch the David Tennant debate me and Connor have, as that is a very interesting 4-hour-long video.
Yes, 4 hours.
Right, and so, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all back in less than a week for Spyfall Part 2. Thanks for watching.